We begin the news this hour by telling you that the Nigerian Police Force has invited President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, for questioning over a case of criminal conspiracy, terrorism, financing, treasonable, felony, subversion and cybercrime. An invitation letter signed by Adamu Mwazu, Assistant Commissioner of Police, indicated that Ajaero is expected to be at the Intelligence Response Team complex in Abuja on Tuesday. Mwazu said an arrest warrant will be issued against Ajaero if he does not honor the invitation. We understand that the case is connected to the recent raid of the NLC secretariat in Abuja by the police on August 7. Let's now head to the court, where we are indeed with the latest story concerning the Court of Appeal. Is set to hear the appeal of former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen, challenging his 2019 removal by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Onnoghen argues that the CCT lacks jurisdiction and that its chairman was biased, denying him a fair hearing. He seeks to overturn the CCT's conviction on 6 counts of false assets declaration, his removal from office and the order to confiscate his assets. Onnoghen's lead counsel, Adegboyega Omolo, contends that only the National Judicial Council, NJC, can discipline a CJN for misconduct. The appeal also highlights that the CCT ignored court order halting the trial and failed to present the petitioner whose accusations led to the charges. The federal government will begin selling crude oil to the Dangote Refinery in naira from October 1, following a decision made during a meeting led by Finance Minister Wale Edun. The Technical Implementation Committee reviewed progress on naira payments for crude oil sales and outlined roles for key stakeholders, including NMDPRA, CBN, NUPRC, and Afrexim Bank. Zach Adedeji, chairman of the FIRS and the Technical Subcommittee, confirmed that the first PMS delivery from Dangote is expected next month. Finance Minister Edu emphasized the importance of transparency and directed the committee to finalize the arrangement and prepare a report for President Bola Tinubu. This follows the Federal Executive Council's July 29 approval of Tinubu's directive for NNPC to sell crude oil to refineries in naira. Away from that, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited says it recorded the sum of 3,297 billion naira as profit for the year 2023. The NNPC Limited, while presenting its 2023 audited financial statements to newsmen in Abuja, says it expended a total revenue of about 24 trillion naira for the financial year. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
In a bid to promote transparency and accountability to the public, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited presented its 2023 audited financial statement to the public.
An excellent performance, being the first fruit of the PIA, the commitment of the board, management and staff of the company, thus leading to the attainment of 3.3 trillion profit after tax for 2023 financial year. Accordingly, the shareholders of the company have approved a final dividend of 2.1 trillion in line with the provision of PIA 2021.
Details of the statement, which was presented by the Chief Financial Officer of the oil giant, says that the NNPC Limited made a 28% increase in profit at approximately 3,279 billion naira in 2023 when compared to 2.4 trillion naira in 2022.
When you look at the performance of this company from 2019 to date, we have never looked backwards. It's always forward. The company, when we took over, was a loss-making corporation. And PIA came into being, and it became a karma company. We broke even at the end of 2019, and by 2020, we had produced the first profit ever for this company, which is 287 billion naira. The following year, in 2021, the company's profit grew to 674 billion naira. By the third year, in 2022, the profit jumped to 2.5 trillion naira. Of course, in that year, we also had the JV assets transferred from the corporation to us as part of our take-up assets. Now, in 2023, the profit has also grown by 28%, from 3.5 trillion to 3.297 trillion naira.
The executive vice presidents of the upstream and downstream sectors of the company also provided an update of the fuel queues being experienced, the nation's refineries, and current gas exploration concerns.
We were doing as low as 1.1 million barrels when these vandals hit us really hard. And because of the intervention, we've been able to ramp up production, and I said, on a particular day this month, we hit 1.7 million barrels. It definitely indicates that the measures are working.
You'd also understand that with the rains also come situations where ability to discharge petroleum products is challenged. When you have lightning and thunderstorms, you have to suspend not just the discharge of petroleum products onshore, but also the evacuation from the tank farm.
The NNPC Limited said that the audited financial statement will be uploaded on its website for the public. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPC Limited to use the 2023 final dividends owed to the Federation to cover the cost of petrol subsidies. In addition, the President has approved a halt on the payment of 2024 interim dividends to the Federation to help boost NNPC's cash flow. Also, NNPC informed the President that due to the subsidy payments, it is currently unable to pay taxes and royalties into the Federation account, referring to this as subsidy shortfall and FX differential. A forecast from NNPC indicated that the total petrol subsidy expenses from August 2023 to December 2024 will amount to 6.884 trillion naira, leaving the company unable to remit 3.987 trillion naira in taxes and royalties to the Federation account. And still staying with oil and gas stories, let's also tell you that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says that the Port Harcourt Refinery is fully ready for production, but has, however, been unable to start production because it is yet to be certified. The Executive Vice President downstream of the NNPC Limited made this known to newsmen in Abuja during the presentation of its 2023 audited financial report.
When we will get products out, that's a combination of the process of testing. We will test. You don't get on-spec production immediately you start a refinery. You're going to get off-spec production. So we should be getting some off-spec production coming into tank in the next few days. But we will not be able to get that to the public until we get on-spec production, and which has been certified by NNPC. The process of getting that to the public, like I said, is getting it certified by NNPC, and I'm optimistic that we should reach that point of getting it certified, getting our production from the old Port Harcourt Refinery certified as fit for distribution by NNPC sometime in September. But as it is now, the unit is working. We're getting products. It's not just.
To discuss this, I am joined by Taiwo Saim, a policy implementation consultant. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Now, how will the decision to use NNPC's 2023 final dividends for petrol subsidies, how will it impact the Federation's revenue and overall economic stability?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Firstly, the dynamics of yesterday's presentation by the NNPCL gave a bit of different trajectory in the current Nigerian sector. Now, the first question is this: what subsidy is NNPC paying? That was not actually explicitly stated in the president's speech, because what we know is On May 29, 2023, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, announced that subsidy was gone. So is the subsidy being paid? Is it the one that has been owed in the previous year of 2023 or the current subsidy? That's the first question. Secondly, is the subsidy, is that the payment of subsidy as we speak today? Now, when we have these questions unanswered, then we begin to ask ourselves, what is the real role of NNPCL? Is NNPCL still under the government, or is now a public liability company or public limited liability company, as it was initiated by the PIA in 2022? Those are very critical questions to actually come to dimension to understand that there are a lot of undercover issues that do not reflect a lot of things to the Nigerian sector. Having said that, while the NNPC has been announcing different profits in the past 4 years, 2020, 200 billion, 2021, 600 billion, 2022, 2 billion and 2 trillion, and now 3 trillion. Shows that the trajectory of profit. Well, this is some NNPCL that in 2022, 2021, could not remit any money to the Federation account. So the question now is this. NNPC is making profits, right? From the books. But NNPC is not remitting anything to the Federation account. Now, the money, the profit that was announced yesterday is to cater for subsidy. Now, what does that mean? There's no money going to there's no money entering into the Federation account from the NNPC. So, at the long run, you are using one hand to pay. You are using Peter to pay Paul. And at the long run, the economy is still stagnant. So nothing is happening. So it's just a show. It's just a show.
All right.
That's the way I see it yesterday.
Mr. Sani, so are there? Do you think that there are long-term consequences of halting the 2024 interim dividends payment? I mean, to the Federation, and now that you said, okay, fine, use that money to offset, as it were, the subsidies that are being owed. How will this affect NNPC's financial health? And most importantly, like I rightly asked initially, the overall look of the economy, as it were?
Well, sadly, the first thing is, there is no truth. There's no truth. The NNPC is a limited liability company. So the main question would be, who are the shareholders at NNPC? What we know in 2022 was that the government would do not have sole responsibility on NNPC again. So the same government is coming in now to say NNPC should pay up what they have gotten from their own profit as subsidy. So now the question is who is the real shareholder, or who are the real shareholders of NNPC? Is it the same federal government? So the question is, we are still revolving around the circle. Nothing is going to move. And the honest reality is that NNPC still and will continue to make profits. That's the first thing. We must not forget that. Whether in the books or reality. And secondly is that some people are there in the system trying to look for avenue to siphon the money from the NNPC. You have to call it special to be now. Yesterday we heard that NNPC is not going to pay tax because they have subsidy to pay. So what's the question? Is the federal government now telling us that the payment of subsidy has now become a substitute for NNPC to pay subsidy? So there's a strong imbalance in the system. And when we do not face this situation, we will not be heading to any direction. So whether NNPC makes or declares 40 trillion, whether NNPC declares $1 billion, nothing will be done, and nothing will have any impact in the economy. We see what is happening today in the economy. The economy is still dwindling. Inflation is still on the high. There is even currently as we speak, there's increase in fuel scarcity. Today as we speak, NNPC announced yesterday. It's so ironical. NNPC announced yesterday dividend. Is NNPC still a regulatory authority? Those are the real questions we need to ask ourselves. Those are the real questions we need to ask ourselves. It is not. It's beyond this rhetoric. It's what I say is rhetoric.
All right.
And we have been hearing these things year in, year out. The police stations are still full of commuters trying to purchase fuel.
All right.
So what are we saying here? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Taiwo, saying thank you for joining us. So we do indeed appreciate your thoughts concerning this situation. Thanks for staying with us here on News Now. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the appointment of a new management team for the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Algerian Gelali, made this known in a statement on Monday. The president expects the new members of the management of the company to deploy their expertise and experience to drive NDPHC's mandate of effectively managing the national integrated power projects. And so, talking of appointments, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has replaced Jalal Arabi as executive chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, appointed Professor Abdullahi Saleh Usman as his successor. Announced by presidential spokesman Algerian Gelali, the appointment is subject to Senate confirmation. Professor Usman, with experience from the University of Medina and Peshawar University, previously chaired the Kano State Pilgrims Board. Arabi's dismissal follows controversy over the 2024 Hajj operations, where 90 billion naira in government subsidies was questioned. The FCC reportedly recovered 314,098 Saudi riyals from Arabi, who allegedly overpaid himself and other officials for Hajj costs. President Tinubu expects the new NACON chairman to lead with integrity and transparency. And over now to education matters, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has issued the federal government a 21-day notice of its intent to begin a nationwide strike. This was confirmed by sources within ASUU's National Executive Council, NEC, following a critical meeting at the University of Ibadan. The notice will be sent to the Federal Ministries of Labour and Education as a formal warning of the planned strike. An NEC member clarified that the notice is not an ultimatum, but a legal requirement under labour laws. The union aims to ensure its actions comply with the law before proceeding with a strike after the 21-day period. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation has tasked citizens to be deliberate in setting out standards for the demonstration of integrity at the highest level. This was during a two-day integrity innovation workshop for public officers towards the promotion of a culture of integrity in the nation's public service. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
Globally, public service delivery remains a challenge as there's a perceived dissatisfaction by citizens on service delivery, leading to mistrust and lack of confidence on the integrity of public officers. Accountability experts say upholding the integrity of the nation's public service has become apt and necessary for good governance.
Lack of integrity mostly manifests in forms of bribes, conflict of interest, appropriation of personal interest above national interest, gifts and favors, and use of state property.
The Global Governance Efficiency Index and the Corruption Perception Index paint a picture of a public service grappling with inefficiency, corruption, and a lack of responsiveness to the needs of our citizens. These are not just numbers. They represent the voices of millions of Nigerians who deserve better.
In order to address the critical challenge confronting Nigeria's public service, stakeholders from various walks of life have converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, to brainstorm on how to foster a culture of accountability and improve citizens' trust.
Like conversations like this still happen in our society. How do we begin to change the tide? But I mean, today we will try our best to see that the pride of the nation is built on integrity and accountability through conversations that we can have here.
We see this work as complementing what is being done in our judicial system, Our judicial system should hold people who are accused accountable, and those who have been found guilty should face the law.
They say it is important to leverage the use of technology to enhance transparency and call for avenues that will promote citizens' involvement.
We believe that citizens' engagement, participation, and ownership of the crusade is the only way to win the war against graft.
Stakeholders say they hope that the outcome of this gathering will enhance efforts and support the development of a culture of integrity and accountability within governments. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonka Joseph.
The network of Abuja left groups, one of the organizers of the recently concluded #EndBadGovernance protest, has accused Nigeria's federal government of planning to secretly arraign some of its members who were arrested during the protest. The group, while speaking at the Federal High Court in Abuja, says the government is using underhand tactics to extend the stay of its members in detention following the continuous postponement of their court case whenever it is slated for hearing.
I have information from inside the court that they are about to bring them in today. As you can see around, there are lots of security trucks, DSS, police, army, mounted around this venue, NSCDC mounted around this venue. So there's this much amount of security presence. It's obvious that they are bringing them. And inside the court, if you get to court 10 right now, they have also asked the vacation court to be on standby. That's one case is coming, and they have not revealed what the case is to anybody. So it means that they are planning to have a secret trial of people who protested peacefully. Meanwhile, we have more than 30-something trucks of security agencies around us mounting that. Yet, 20 students have been kidnapped. Medical students have been kidnapped. Dental students have been kidnapped. Yet, the government is not doing. They are not mobilizing like this about it. And we are only saying that the government should do their job. We are not security threats. We are only saying that the government should ensure that Nigerians are protected. Nigerians' welfare are protected.
Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has called on member states across West Africa to speedily ratify the ECOWAS Protocol against corruption. President Tinubu, who was represented at the ongoing 6th Assembly of the Annual General Assembly of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, urged member states to form a common front against graft. News Central's Joshua Imarai reports.
In attendance were representatives and anti-corruption champions from key West African states. The event, the 6th Annual General Assembly of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, holding at the ECOWAS Secretariat in Abuja, brought together representatives of anti-corruption institutions and agencies expected to share strategies and best practices in the fight against corruption. President Bola Tinubu, who was represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, urged member states to quickly ratify and implement the ECOWAS Protocol against graft.
What before us is enormous, but so significant is our collective resolve. By working together, sharing best practices, and leveraging our diverse strengths, we can create a formidable bulwark against corruption in West Africa. All member states must ratify and fully implement the ECOWAS Protocol against corruption.
Other stakeholders at the event called for regional and global collaboration to fight corruption, saying it is a cancer that impedes the stability and development of Africa.
Regrettably, some of our member institutions in about 3 West Africa countries are not here represented, and we also pray that this will be resolved very soon so that we can put the challenge behind us. All of us will come together as one within the sub-region to ensure that we put proper systems and processes in place to fight corruption.
It is a very difficult task which requires integrated approach by all concerned. It is a cross-party, cross-agency work and also regional.
By sharing best practices and holding each other accountable, African nations can collectively work towards the vision of a corruption-free continent. Regional cooperation alone is, however, not enough.
Effective use of technology and digital tools will assist anti-corruption operatives in the onerous task of taming this monster and dismantling the corruption networks.
Nigeria's government, while calling for a joint approach to fight graft, announced the donation of a permanent secretariat for the network of anti-corruption institutions in West Africa. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
To help matters now, the National Assembly has urged the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria to reopen its website and resume verification of nurses and midwives using its former guidelines pending on investigation by the House Committee on Health Institutions. This directive was communicated in a letter dated August 13, 2024, signed by Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Sani Magaji Tambuwal. The decision follows a motion raised by Honorable Patrick Umar on July 23, 2024, stressing the need to protect the House's integrity. The House had previously instructed NMCN not to implement revised guidelines from February 7, 2023 during the investigation. However, NMCN shut down its verification services, leading to concerns from global nursing boards about verifying Nigerian nursing certificates. The group known as the Nigerian Nurses' Voice have been at the forefront, calling on the government to intervene. Well, to discuss this, we are joined by a nurse, Alexis Isioma. Thank you so much for being here, Alexis. All right. Thank you for joining us, by the way. But how will the directive from the National Assembly that the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria, NMCN, reopen its website and resume verification of nurses and midwives impact heavily, especially on nurses and the health sector generally? I'd like you to please do well to unmute your device if you can, so we can hear you clearly.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect. Please go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I am Nurse Alexis Isioma. So the verification portal, when it's opened, right now, as I'm speaking to you, so many of our nurses in Saudi has been sent to come back home. Some that have even resigned from their job here in Nigeria due to this whole verification, because without that verification, their data flow cannot be sent to the Saudi government or the nursing board over there. Also, the Texas Board of Nursing has also written some of our nurses that they cannot continue with them until NMCN verifies their license. And that is where we are today. So many things have gone wrong these days. Now, some of our nurses, even the diaspora nurses, not just Nigerian nurses, the diaspora nurses cannot move from one state to another. If you're practicing in US, for example, you're practicing in one state in US. If you're to move to another state, you need to be verified again by the Nursing and Midwifery Council in Nigeria. And if that is not done, you are left there you cannot even move forward. And that is where we are now. And that is why we cried out to the House of Rep. And they have spoken up, and we await the Nursing and Midwifery Council to open up the portal with immediate effect. Thank you.
All right. So can you please tell us how bad is this? Especially, how is it affecting nurses who are outside of the country? How bad really is it?
Like I stated earlier, it is very bad because most of our nurses, they are just on standstill now. Career-wise, professional-wise, they are not even able to move from where they are. Some of them can no longer practice. That is how bad it is. They cannot be verified because they need NMCN to verify them. That's the Nursing and Midwifery Council in Nigeria here. To verify them, that's to authenticate that the license was issued by them here, so that they can move forward with whatever they are doing. Even those that have gotten jobs over there, they can't even start the job without that license being verified. Those that are already working there are also affected because they can't move from one station to another because you still need that verification. That is how bad it is. Then, like I stated earlier, in Saudi Arabia, there is what we call data flow. It also requires verification. Now, more than 2,500 nurses have been sent back from Saudi that we are practicing due to this verification. They told them, I have some evidences which maybe I will be sending later. They told them that without that verification, they cannot move further with them. And that is where we are. I don't know how you'll be punishing people just because of something that you can handle. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, what solutions do you think needs to be put in place now that you've taken it as far as going to the House of Representatives? What are you expecting to hear?
I think we've already heard what we are expected to hear. We've heard it already. And that is the circular that has been passed. The motion has been moved and a resolution has been reached. And that resolution should be followed. The resolution states that the NMCN should open up its portal with the old verification guidelines and start verifying nurses immediately. Because this was what they stated earlier in March, which Nursing and Midwifery Council misinterpreted, and they closed down the verification portal, suspended it, and wrote boldly on their portal that the verification portal has been suspended due to the House of Representatives directives. And that wasn't the directive, although. And now, when we cried back again to the House of Rep, a motion was raised again by Honorable Patrick Umar, and a resolution has been reached again. And it's boldly stated in that letter that you're saying that the Nursing and Midwifery Council should go ahead and verify nurses immediately with the old verification guidelines. And we expect that to be done within this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, we hope to get a feedback, especially from you, and hopefully it will be resolved within this week. Thank you for joining us, by the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Right. Welcome back. News Central now continues in Central Africa, where Mpox cases and deaths are rising in Democratic Republic of Congo as the Central African country awaits vaccines from the United States and Japan. Health Minister Samuel Roger Kamba said the toll this year has risen in a few days from 16,000 cases and 548 deaths to 16,700 cases and a little more than 570 deaths. The WHO on Wednesday declared the Mpox surge in Africa is a global public health emergency. Outbreaks have been reported in Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda since July. A case of the new strain has also been detected in Sweden. The United States has promised 50,000 vaccine doses for DRC, while Japan on Monday agreed to send 3.5 million doses only for children. Up north, ahead of the presidential elections on September 7, Youssef Al-Cheche, a candidate from Algeria's Socialist Forces Front, the country's oldest opposition party, has held a campaign rally in the city of Bijajai. Al-Cheche pledged to promote a moderate Islam, a North African Islam that allows openness towards others, an Islam of tolerance between Algerian men and women.
Nous devons taper sur toutes les portes. Nous devons expliquer à nos concitoyens. Nous devons les convaincre que la situation nécessite et impose à tout un chacun de s'impliquer dans les villages, dans les villes, dans notre environnement quotidien. باش سنيني مساكين إلا قد سم إلا قد تعاونم إلا قد تواليم عند تسدو ثمور ثنون.
شو الدنيا نتمنى ان شاء الله هذا العبد دياوين الربح هذا الخير يثمر ثنا ان شاء الله استيدت وفود يقرزين ان شاء الله زمرتيس.
And back to Nigeria, where residents are indeed speaking and expressing their dissatisfaction with the long queues that are found at filling stations and, of course, the lack of the petroleum products. Joining us now, right from one of the filling stations here in Lagos, Nigeria, is our correspondent, Bettina Nweli. Good morning to you, Bettina. All right. Hopefully we'll be able to establish connection with Bettina to find out what Nigerians are indeed facing, especially as the fuel scarcity continues to bring a lot of traffic on the roads. But let's move on now and take a look at what's happening in the United States. President Joe Biden has endorsed Kamala Harris to defeat Donald Trump in the November election during his emotional farewell speech at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago on Monday. The 81-year-old who quit the White House race in July urged Americans to put a prosecutor in the Oval Office instead of a convicted felon, referring to one of Harris's previous roles.
He says we're losing. He's the loser. He's dead wrong. When we put a prosecutor in the Oval Office instead of a convicted felon.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris says she is forever grateful to President Joe Biden as she addressed the opening of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Biden officially passed the torch to Harris as the party's nominee for November's election and was treated to a huge ovation as he took to the stage. Well, still staying in the United States, former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has unleashed attacks against U.S. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris and her running mate. During a rally in York, Pennsylvania, Trump claimed U.S. President Joe Biden has been deposed in a coup orchestrated by Harris.
Policy in Kamala Harris's radical liberal playbook sends jobs and wealth to other countries. The jobs go to other countries and the wealth goes to other countries. Every policy in the Trump agenda is designed to bring the jobs and wealth back home to America where it belongs and where it's going to stay. Kamala puts America last. I put America first. Under her plan, manufacturers will pay even higher taxes in America than in communist China. By contrast, I will pass gigantic tax cuts for workers and keep their jobs here in the United States. They're going to stay here. We're going to beat everybody. We're going to beat them like a drum.
Well, that's all we have for you on the news for this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Police invite NLC President Ajaero for questioning over alleged terror financing. Government to start sale of crude oil to Dangote Refinery in naira from October 1. Algerian opposition candidate Al-Chiche holds rally promises moderate Islamic administration. You can send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and you can follow us on all socials. We are at News Central TV. And watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, Limex, Open Avons, and not forgetting to you can stream live on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm Joe Hanson. Many thanks for watching.